I took my small business from an Etsy shop side hustle to a $10 million business. It's been a crazy journey, and I want to share 8 mistakes that I would avoid if you're trying to scale a small business too. Number one, and I feel like probably the most important to me, would be setting unrealistic goals. So everybody is different, and I feel like I'm a very goal-oriented person, but at no point running my business did I say, I'm doing this so I can make $1 million this year. More so, I've always been trying to reach little goals along the way of like, I want to do this so I can get a couple more followers today, or I'm doing this so I can make a couple of sales today. I think there's conventional wisdom that you should have a 5-year plan in your business, but if it's something that you're experimenting with and just starting out with, don't make a 5-year plan. I, 5 years ago, was in my apartment, and now I'm sitting in a 14,000 square foot office and warehouse that I rent. I could have never predicted where I am today, and I think that if I tried to, it would have led to disappointment and discouragement. More so, I've always just put something out there, tried it without too many expectations, maybe some speculation of how it's going to go, but really just trying something and then being comfortable with whatever happens. Because if you try a bunch of things without expectations, you're never disappointed, you never discourage yourself from trying something again, and along the way, you're going to have some successes. So I'm just a big believer in, especially when you're starting out and experimenting and trying to grow, of not having too many expectations at all. I have long-term goals and hopes for this business, but I don't have a timeline attached to them. And I just want to do a little bit better than last year, or a little bit better than yesterday, as much as I can, and then see where it takes me. So just being very realistic, and also being like careful with like the promises you make to yourself or the things you expect out of yourself when it may not be practical. I mean, it's definitely not practical your first year in business that you'll make $1 million, but it may not even be practical to make $10,000. So don't let that stop you from trying. I mean, it's taken me 10 years to get to this point, and the first 5 years I made like $25,000 total or something. So, you never know what could happen if you just keep trying. Number 2, and a big one that definitely would have stopped me in my tracks, is listening to limiting beliefs that you might have in your head. So definitely something that would have stopped me is if I thought it was too big of a financial risk to take this as my full-time job. Obviously, before this, I was a student, so I was able to do my business on the side. I think if you had a full-time job, you also could do a business like this on the side and sort of build it up. So you don't have to quit your job is the bottom line. You don't have to take big financial risks if you're experimenting and starting something out. It might be a lot of work, but it doesn't have to be a lot of risk. Telling yourself that you don't know how to start a business, that's goofy, because nobody does. Every business is different. I couldn't go run even a similarly sized business that isn't mine. I don't know how it works because my business has been built the way it's been built. Every business is different, and also like how you run a business varies from person to person. Everybody has different business models and different strategies, and they've come to those conclusions over trial and error and years of effort. And just because someone runs their business one way doesn't mean you have to. So how you run your business is your decision, and all of the like intricacies that go along with it is something that you can learn step by step along the way. Being scared of formalities, like how do you get a trademark? How do you pay taxes for your business? How do you file for an LLC? How do you comply with local regulations? There are people out there that want to help you, and you may have to pay them, but it's really worth it if it's something that stresses you out. So if you're looking for a commercial lease, get an agent, get a lawyer to read your contract. I am a lawyer, I still got a lawyer. If you are worried about registering your LLC or paying your taxes, it's something a CPA can help you with. If your CPA isn't helping you with it, find a new CPA. There are people who will help you do everything that you can for your business. All you have to do is make a few phone calls, send a few emails. People at your, local city hall are there to help you register your business and comply with regulations. You're not going to find an easy how-to guide on the internet, because how you do all of these things related to formalities and legalities vary from state to state, municipality to municipality, but there are people who are willing to help you, and it's going to be a lot easier to just call your city hall or call a CPA and ask them versus trying to find a guide online or asking, somebody who isn't from your town or your state. Thinking that you don't have funding and that's something that's going to stop you, there's always ways to sell something small and build up. I got really lucky, I will admit. My marketing is pretty much free because I use social media, and My first product was very cheap. It was hand-painted canvases. And then my second product that was major for me was stickers, which are also very cheap. But there are ways to make products and build up and bootstrap your own funding. It might take a while. It took me 5 full years before my business really kind of kicked into gear. But I started my business with basically $0. I was 18. I had no money from relatives, friends, and family. I didn't even get orders from them. I just kind of did it myself. And I'm not saying that as a pat on my back. It's more of it's possible. You can hustle your way to having funding. Obviously, there are some products that need more funding than others. If you're doing something tech related or something with really high minimum order quantities, that's going to be more difficult. But I would reach out, if you need to friends and family, but also you could try GoFundMe. You could try crowdsourcing through social media. If you have a good product, people will believe in you. So you have to believe in yourself and believe in your ability to do it without funding. Also, as a side note, everybody I know who has had a big venture capital investor has had issues with that. So I'm very happy that I don't have that. And it's just something to consider is it might seem like it's a fast track to get funding from venture capital, but there comes a lot of strings attached. So not saying it's not viable, but you don't need it. And if you take it, there's going to be consequences to that too. Another limiting belief that's a little more abstract, but has kind of helped me, I think, and something I see in other business owners is thinking that everything is a big deal. Obviously, you should be proud of yourself when you hit milestones, but being afraid of taking risks because it just seems like it's this big, scary thing is going to stop you in your tracks every time. So if you're worried about releasing a new product, if you're worried about investing $5,000 to go to a trade show, if you're worried about signing a commercial lease, you're not going to ever try and you don't know what you're missing out on. But something that I touched on in my previous video is thinking about not just what's the worst that could happen, but what's the best that could happen. And if I limit myself now, am I going to be missing out on a lot more later? Versus if I overextend myself now, am I going to be screwed later? So considering all possibilities rather than just the worst case, and also not thinking everything is a big deal. If you make a mistake, there's ways to fix it. If you invest in the wrong product, you can sell it as a discount and get rid of it. If you go to the trade show and you barely get any orders, you can always hustle and follow up with the leads you did get on and at least break even and then don't go again. I mean, I've had trade shows where I've went and it was pretty much a waste of time, but we at least made our money back in the end. So there are ways to fix mistakes. And also, if you don't make mistakes, then you didn't try. And you have to try things in order to succeed. So just kind of accepting that these big steps may not always work out, but the ones that you do try and succeed will work out so much that the other ones the mistakes won't even matter. So number 3, don't be a perfectionist. I will say, I feel like sometimes I am a little ashamed because I feel like my business can be a little too fast and loose, but I am someone who sometimes has typos, sometimes makes errors. I have typos in my social media posts, on my website. Sometimes things don't work. We release a new product and it's a fine product, but something isn't perfect, so we improve it with the next run. Waiting and waiting and waiting until something is absolutely perfect is just a waste. The best way to grow your business is to be decisive and try things and not waiting until it's absolutely 100% perfect. Because also something to keep in mind is your perfect might be no different from your 80% to the next person. And that's definitely true with art. It's very subjective. I try to always never let the perfect be the enemy of the good, because if I sat there and spent an extra 10 hours on every piece of art that I made, then I would never get anything done. So I try to always keep that in mind, because being a perfectionist only slows you down, wastes your time, costs you money. Obviously, you need to have certain standards of quality, and I try to keep, my business, my products, everything at, a very high standard, but there's always more you could be doing, and if you only focus on that, you'll never get anything done. Number 4, getting bogged down in analytics. So I think the conventional wisdom, especially now, is that everything you do should be driven by analytics. Especially, when you're a very small business, maybe analytics aren't very important. But as you continue to grow, there's a lot of focus and a lot of social pressure almost to be like, is that analytics driven? Are we examining the analytics? I will say, I think I'm lucky in that I have a very good sense for numbers in my own head. So, for example, if I need to reorder my inventory, rather than looking back and tracking exactly how many of each SKU we sold over the past 6 months and then ordering exactly that many of that product. I just kind of wing it. How many did I order last time? Did we sell out of that quickly? Okay, at 100. And I'm not saying that being like overly fast and loose is superior, but in my case where I have like 20, 30, 40 SKUs of a product that I have to reorder at a time, if I analyzed each one for 2 hours, that's 2 weeks of work for me to actually come to the conclusion of here is my order. And I just don't have that kind of time. There are products definitely that require more analytics than others. And, there's all kinds of analytics on social media, on Shopify, how many units sold, like what's your cost per customer acquired, how much revenue did you make in this month, what source of revenue did all of your revenue come from. There's just a million analytics out there, and you have to just zoom in on what is going to be efficient for you to focus on. And like I said, it doesn't have to be a hard science, especially at the small business level. And especially if you're like me and you use social media marketing, because that is so unpredictable. There is no in the past X happened, therefore in the future Y is guaranteed. It's more just putting stuff out there and trying and seeing what works. And, Walmart or Target, they have to look at their analytics. They have to look at microscopic levels of detail in units sold, inventory brought in, social media impressions, cost per click, all of these things. But for me, it's more about, is it working or is it not? If it is, keep doing it. If it's not, don't. How many did we sell last time? Okay, let's add 100, whatever. You have to be decisive more than anything. And thinking that you're not doing it right because you're not using some crazy analytics or looking at every possible piece of information is just slowing you down. And I'm here to tell you that, especially as a small business, it's not going to help you to spend hours and hours analyzing that kind of information. You're not being rash. If you just go for it, you're being decisive. And I think that's important. This is a huge one when you're starting out, thinking of what other people will say. So if I let thinking about my friends and family and people from high school seeing what I post on social media, if I thought about that too much, I never would have posted anything because I don't think anyone finds that very pleasant. I don't want all of the random people I've met throughout my life seeing every thought and feeling that I've had related to my business online. But putting it out there has helped me connect with a lot of people, connect with customers, connect with other small business owners and network, and that's really valuable. And I'm sure there are people out there who think I'm annoying, who judge me, but you just kind of have to let that go. I think being afraid of that is just going to stop you from getting all of the good benefits that come along with sharing your content and sharing your journey. And even not with social media, but just, if I start this business and it fails, what will people think? Who cares? They didn't try at all. So screw them. And that kind of brings me to the next one, which is being scared of what people actually do say, because especially on social media, I get a lot of hate comments, and it's probably dwarfed in comparison to influencers and people with even bigger followings. But to me, it feels like a lot. One hate comment is too many, but hundreds, that's a lot. And it's crazy because all I'm doing is running a small business selling flowers on notebooks and stickers and stuff. That seems about as innocuous and wholesome as it can get, and yet people are mad. So something that I think about a lot is the only way to avoid criticism is to do absolutely nothing at all. Because no matter what you do, there's always going to be someone who doesn't like it. So you just have to ignore them and focus on the people who do like it. If I post a video that gets 10,000 likes and 50 hate comments and 250 positive comments, 50 hate comments is a lot. That's a lot of people, especially if they're telling you, all these different things that you hadn't thought about and that make you feel bad and whatever. That's a ton of people. However, you have to focus on the fact that 10,000 people liked it and 250 people are supporting you. So just focusing on that is really important. And like I said, if you put yourself out there at all, there's going to be people who don't like it, even if you're doing something completely innocuous. And you just have to ignore that. It's still going to hurt because I've been doing this for a long time. And every time someone, posts a new hate comment or criticizes me in a new way, it hurts me a little bit. But over time, I've gotten a lot better at dealing with it. It did take me years and years of just people picking me apart on the internet to have some sort of defense to that, because I'm very sensitive. But you have to focus on the good that's coming out of it and the good people who are supporting you. So just don't let it get to you. Another big mistake would be trying to do it alone. So I started out my business just running it by myself. I got help from friends. My mom started helping me even though we were states away. She filled my wholesale orders from my childhood bedroom at home. So that was a huge help. But if I tried to do all of that myself and tried to pack all my orders and do everything on my own, I never would have been able to focus on developing new products and making social media content and doing the things that actually make the business expand. So if you get bogged down doing the nitty-gritty all the time, you'll never be able to grow. And now I have a team of 16 people and they're really wonderful, and each one of them is fantastic, and we all have a great community together, and it's awesome to have all of their help. And now, because I didn't try to do it all myself, a bunch of people have jobs and we have a good place to work together and get to have fun with each other every day. So there's just a lot of good that can come out of hiring people and accepting help. And it's really important to not try and take everything onto yourself, because not only is that going to become too stressful and you'll get burnt out, but you're also just not going to be able to grow. You just won't have the time. The last one that kind of goes along with that is trying to make all of your products yourself. Obviously, there are some businesses that are handmade and that's their thing, and I totally respect that and love it. And there's some people who just love making product as a job and that's what they want to be their job. And if that's your goal, that's fantastic. But if you want to scale a business, you probably are going to need to outsource some or all of your production, because it is a huge time suck and it's very complicated and it requires expertise. And if you want to have a variety of products, you just won't be able to do it yourself. So trying to figure out strategic ways to outsource and trying to figure out, okay, can I outsource part of my production? Can I outsource all of my production? Can I outsource part of my production for some products? Can I outsource all of my products? Or, there's always going to be options. It's not all or nothing. It could be part of the production of one product and all of the production of another. You can have options. It's your business, you're in control, and you can choose how you want to outsource. But doing that, again, it will free up your time and it'll allow you to have more options and more variations, which will help you appeal to more customers. And that ties into all the tips that I had in my second video. I appreciate you following along with my series of how I grew my side hustle Etsy shop into a $10 million business. If you haven't seen parts 1 through 3, I have lots of good tips and stories in there. So please make sure to check those out. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Leave any comments below if you have any questions or are just curious about anything. And don't forget to like this video too. And again, follow along for more small business content. And thanks so much for watching the series.